Okay, so I'm going to be annotating, and I want to show you guys how to annotate with interpretation and deeper meaning, okay? I want to show you what that looks like. So, all right, so I'm going to go ahead and look at the heading. So I know that this is the part, you know, in that little storyline, and I like to kind of like, you know, make myself, I know this is like the exposition. That's kind of like what the story. So I know that the purpose of this part of the packet is to really understand like the you know, the how plot structure uses these different elements. So I'm just kind of like gonna plug that in here. And I remember on that first page that basically you have this like character, so who meets like a guide. Okay, we'll call the guide like that. So notice how I'm just kind of like drawing myself a picture right now before I even like start reading, just so that I can kind of like, you know, put these elements in here or whatever. So the character meets the guide. Oh no. What comes first? I'm wrong. Yeah. So the character has the problem first. Okay. Then he meets the guide. Okay. Then he gives him a plan, right? Then he calls him to action. Then that action either results in like success or failure. Okay, so I'm just kind of putting that there, you know, just because I'm trying to get my understanding. So this part of the packet, I'm going to be dealing with like, you know, as we've already had the problem, we've already met the guide, and we're already doing the plan. So I'm just kind of summarizing that in my mind, okay? Because I need deep understandings to understand this, and I don't want to waste my time. So this is the part where the guide gives them a plan. All right, so I know that I have to like interpret this text. So when the hero meets the guide, they are confused, okay? That's new learning, and I didn't know that. So I have to interpret that. I have to interpret like what that means. So when the hero, or the main character, protagonist, they called it, meets the guide, they are confused. They've already had their problem, and they meet the guide, they're confused. So, and I'm thinking about like in story, like I've got to be able to have the skill of story. So that means that I've really got to understand this whole, like how the guide gives them a plan kind of thing. So when the hero meets the guide, they are confused. Okay, so I don't really have anything to add to that. The job of the guide then is to break through the hero's confusion and give them confidence that their life can be better. Okay, so I don't really know what that means yet, but I'm just going to kind of focus on that. So I'm going to draw a box around that little thing, and I'm going to come up here, and I'm just going to draw an arrow, and I'm going to ask myself, okay, like, so interpret that, Melissa. Like, what does that mean? Okay, so I already know that the guide may not be a person. It might just be, like, it could be something else too. But the guide then is break through the hero's confusion and give them the confidence their life can be better. Okay, so the guide sort of helps solve the problem maybe, or inspires them to at least try. So, okay, so I'm going to move on. The plan can be as simple as a paradigm shift. You used to think this way, but I want you to think another way, or as complex as a multi-level strategy. Oh, and I already remember, like, when I read on that other, like, right before it talked about how, like, the conflict has 3 different levels. They'll help the hero win a complicated battle. So I'm going to read that again. The plan can be as simple as a paradigm shift. Okay, so what does that part mean? Oh, okay, so, I know what this means. Like a paradigm shift. What he's talking about there, because he defined it right after that word that I didn't know what it meant. So if this is like talking about like a shift in thinking. So the guy can like cause a shift in thinking. All right. Or as complex as a multi-level strategy that will help the hero win a complicated battle. Regardless, after the hero hears the plan, they must decide whether to take action or on the plan they've been given. Okay, so example of plans like Frodo. Okay, so I don't really have much else to annotate here, but I really gotta like make sure that I understand this whole gives them a plan kind of thing. So I'm trying to search for new understandings because I know I've got to really understand this. Like my end goal, because my teacher set it up for me, like I've got to learn the story, the skill of story, which means I've got to learn how to do this or be able to recognize when it's happening. So I'm just going to like search here and see if there's any kind of like other understandings that I can get, you know, out of this. So let me just, a lot of times I like to make a list. Okay, so I'm just not satisfied with like what little I've annotated here because I just don't feel like I understand it that well. Okay, so as I look at this, I'm realizing that the guide, like the plan, it's actually pretty okay. So I'm gonna highlight this sentence right here. So it just kind of hit me as I was like making myself search for more understanding. The plan is, when I'm thinking about like how important story is and how compelling it has to be, the plan is critical to the development of its plan is critical to the development, but it's also has to like intrigue the brain, I would say, you know, to intrigue the brain. It probably also has to be very clear. Like it can't be so complicated, you know. The plan has to be clear because I already know one of my truths and understandings that I already know has to be clear is that the brain like it uses story for clarity. So I would imagine that on this part of the story making process, that like even though the plan has to be inspiring and complicated, it has to probably be pretty clear and like straightforward. So notice how I dug for some understanding there. You guys aren't doing that. What a lot of you guys are doing is you're just you're observing. You're not interacting with the text. You're literally just like you're doing notices, but they're not notices that are like changing your understanding and taking you deeper. You're just observing. Oh, I like what he said here. And that's definitely a part of annotation. And you're going to do that when you're like reading a novel. But when you're reading a piece for like nonfiction, like information, you've really got to like, you've got to do this. And I don't think I realized that, you know, the difference in the annotation. This is how you annotate to like make yourself gain new understanding and like deeper meaning. Okay, it's not just like, because sometimes like we annotate stories you know, to like you see what the author's doing, you know, how he's putting it together or whatever. But here we're like actually trying to make ourselves learn something, and this is how you annotate to learn something. Okay, all right, what I want you to do is scribble down a note somewhere, like what'd you learn, what did you pick up?